Hello, Regent Park. My name is Minerva Navasca, and with businesses reopening all around Toronto, it seems that everything is going back to the way it was before, which is good, right? For the youth, the summer job has always been a staple in North American culture. However, in the summer of 2020, how has this exciting rite of passage shifted into something not only physically draining, but dangerous? How has the desire to experience life as it was before now demanding that desperate students sacrifice their health and well-being? Here is what they have to say. Today, I am joined by...
I am Genevieve Barrett, and I am a fast food employee.
My name's Baron Stewart. I am currently working at HomeSense.
I'm David, and I'm a college student.
I'm Brianne Harvey. So I'm a student right now. I'm in college, and because of the pandemic, I had to move home. And so right now I'm working in my hometown. I'm working at LCBO.
So today I had an interview for a new job. It was different because today, rather than a normal interview where I get to walk in with a smile on my face and stuff, I walked in with this, and it was over my face. And obviously my interviewer had one on too. And we had to keep 6 feet from each other, so there's that. Go ahead.
Did you feel like there was a lack of human connection within the interview?
Yeah, emotionally, there was definitely something lacking because even though you can see the eyes of a person, you can't tell if they're like really smiling or like a smile can be the same thing as like a frown, or okay, maybe not, but like a smile can also be the same as like a what the heck face. Like, what is this guy thinking?
Were you looking for jobs for a long time before you stumbled into this one? How was the search?
Okay, so I actually heard of the job through a friend, and I've been asking him for a while, just, let me know when you guys are hiring again. If you guys happen to be hiring during this pandemic, I'm more than happy to work. That's just because I've been out of a job for a while. I'm tired of living off of EI. I don't know how much money they're going to want back from that and everything. So, I want to get back to making my own money again. So he told me about it because magically, boom, bang, David was like, "Hey, you should think of you should think of where to apply next." And then that night, my buddy was like, "Hey, man, we got 5 positions that open up." So I'm like, "Okay," and I applied, got a call back like 2 days later. That would have been yesterday, yeah. And then I talked to a manager, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, no, are you good for an interview?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, like 100%." And then the next day, I did an interview, the one that I just told you about.
Yeah.
And I basically got the job on the spot, like, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And were you employed in LCBO before the pandemic started, or?
Actually, I wasn't, because you had to be 19 to work there in the first place. And I just turned 19 in February, but there was a job posting right when I finished school for the year, so I just applied.
So how was looking for a job within the pandemic? Did you find it stressful at all, or?
My whole thing, it wasn't stressful really, because I hadn't intended to really look for one once the pandemic started, because I knew the job market wouldn't be very busy and not a lot of places were hiring. It was just kind of pure luck in my situation, which worked out for me.
So since we're on the topic of employment, do you find that the youth typically try to search for work in order to fulfill that gap that the pandemic brought in terms of boredom or a lack of purpose?
What happened to me was basically, I work at a theater, and when the pandemic hit, obviously it closed down. So at first it was like, whatever. It was like, okay, I got a break from work. I get a break from school. I just get some time to do me. And that's something that I wanted for a really long time. So it was a blessing and a curse at the same time, because I was able to spend time with some family at that, like early on. And it just gave me like a second to be me again and to kind of just bring all the stresses back down. And it was nice. But after a while of just not working and not having like set school times or anything to worry about, it's almost like I had nothing to do. Like, so I ended up just kind of like stopping and thinking, okay, like I should probably start applying places now, because even though I'm still hired on with the theater, it's important for me to just keep busy. And I've been waiting for the theater to call back. I've been waiting for any opportunities that can come up. I've even put out a couple applications online, and nothing was really getting back to me because everyone has all the workers they need right now. But with those 5 positions open, I walked in, did my interview today, and got the job. So that worked out, and now I have
Congratulations.
something to look forward to.
So Genevieve, can you tell me a little bit about your experience regarding COVID and living within the pandemic so far?
Yeah, so for me personally, mentally, it has taken a huge toll. But regarding my work actually told me to not come in first few months that COVID happened because we didn't have enough customers coming in, so they couldn't pay everyone. So only management team were able to come into work, and they didn't schedule like the rest of us. So for about 3 months, I wasn't working at all.
And then around March, when pandemic had hit, I was paid for a couple weeks, and then I was put on temporary, like a temporary leave of absence or like a temporary layoff, just because the company couldn't keep paying out each employee for. They didn't know how long they're gonna have this is gonna be going on for. And then about 3-4 weeks ago, I got the call to come back to work, and I've been working since.
So can you tell us a little bit about your experience working in HomeSense?
Before or after the pandemic?
Both. How did your experiences differ before and after?
It's sort of interesting because things are the same, but they're also different. The one thing is, like, because I do work in retail, obviously you have like the plexiglass things, which isn't that bad at cashiers. The one thing is it's sort of interesting. I used to work in our warehouse a lot, receiving our trucks, and I haven't done that as much. I think I'm fortunate because I really do like working in the warehouse. It's actually my favorite thing to do. And before the pandemic, I wasn't having to do as much cleaning stuff. And actually, most of my shifts now are me going around cleaning common touch points between, like, like doors. I have to go in the washrooms, clean stuff like that. And because we also have phones to page over the systems in the store. So I have to go around and clean that.
Well, one thing is we don't do dine-ins anymore. My place does dine-ins and takeout. So now we're strictly only takeout. We had to wear mandatory masks. And I remember that my last shift I went to, I had to take public transit because that's how I get to work. And I wore a mask on the bus, and I accidentally forgot to take it off before I went on the line.
Yeah.
And they asked me to take off my mask because they thought it would worry the customers. So they asked me to take off my mask, and now it's mandatory.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you always on board with that whole wear a mask thing, or?
Oh, absolutely. I wore a mask even when I wasn't sick, like before this. And I definitely am for the mask. And I was actually really shocked when they asked me to take it off. I'm like, oh, I thought that wearing a mask would be a good thing. But
yeah.
It's not.
And due to the pandemic and everything going on, did you feel like you were ever short-staffed? Did you ever feel like there was more of a workload because of what was going on in the outside world?
Yeah, I feel like even now that things have slowly opened up and everything, we have enough staff. When you look at it, there's 6 of us, so that looks like enough. And the pandemic kind of created a shortage of employees because LCBO was ruled an essential service, so they were open 6 days a week, so they needed more help. Enough. But even now it still feels short-staffed because we get delivery trucks and then sometimes they're late, or sometimes they bring in 3 times what we're supposed to be expecting. And the one I work at, it's really small. We can only let 3 customers in at a time. That's how small it is. Yeah. So we don't have much room anyway. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you feel like there's anything that your employer, your supervisors are doing to especially help you with the workload?
Yeah, they've been pretty good about spreading out hours, making sure we all get a pretty equal amount, and that we're all not super stressed because we're closed Mondays. All LCBOs across Ontario are closed, which is just a nice guarantee that we at least have one day off for sure. It's nice to have.
So in addition to your long hours being a source of stress, now that there's the pandemic and the virus to worry about, do you feel like your anxiety has risen because of the health concerns?
It definitely rose for sure in the beginning when I first started working. But with LCBO, we have to clean between every single customer. We have a lot of health measures set, but it's just that the clientele, they don't wear face masks, they don't respect boundaries. Like, we have arrows on the ground and tape, and people will just blatantly ignore them and walk past and cut through, and then you have to be like, can you please follow the arrows, can you please use the hand sanitizer, that kind of thing.
Is doing counting at the front of the store, which I originally thought wouldn't be that bad, but it is very tedious and sort of annoying, I'd say, because the one thing is, like, you have to always keep counting people, and the one thing I found is some people don't seem to understand the situation. Like, they'll walk in as if, like, there's no pandemic going on. I'm like, okay, I need to. The one thing that annoyed me the most was if there was a lineup, there'd be these customers, and they're like, "Oh, my wife's in the store, my husband's in the store. Can I go in?" And I'm like, "No, there's a lineup here. Like, it's not fair to these other people." And I noticed one time, because I also have to clean the carts at the front of the store. So, like, I turned my back to clean the carts, and I noticed, like, some guy slips in or whatever, and, like, the only reason I noticed is because I remembered his face, and I see him walking with his wife in the store, and I'm like, okay, that's odd. And, like, it's sort of, I didn't deal with, I guess, necessarily as annoying customers before, but I have now because of it. Like, I've had people, like, actually come complain to me about people not social distancing, which is fine, but it's sort of like, I don't know what to do.
Do you see a lot of customers coming in without masks and without? Yeah. How does that make you feel?
It does make me a little anxious. I know I'm wearing a mask, so I'm protecting myself. And even then, like the counter is about like 5-6 inches, I think. So it's still like a reach. So I'm not like face to face with customers, but still, most of them honestly don't wear masks, and it really hurts me because I'm like, we're in a global pandemic. Why aren't you like protecting yourself? Especially when you go out in public. But I know that I'm safe because I am wearing a mask, but my mask can only do much to protect myself and someone else.
Are these customers typically walk-in or delivery? How much time do they spend within the same space as you? And does that heighten your anxiety at all?
So we don't have a drive-in, so it's only like you can only walk in to get takeout. And yeah, it makes me kind of anxious because it takes us about, well, depending on how many sandwiches, it's about 5 minutes maybe per sandwich. So some people are sometimes in there for like the longest I think someone's been there was like 20 minutes, and they weren't wearing a mask.
Oh, okay.
You see hundreds of people a day, so in reality only a small handful still follow those things, and you have to keep reminding them. But the thing is, people are starting to get annoyed, and they're getting angry, and they don't want to do and follow all these rules, and then they take it out on like us, which is hard because you're like, I don't get paid enough to like babysit you in a way,
Yeah.
A lot. I think it was like afternoon, like my manager was like, this lady and this guy literally started fist fighting. I was like, what? I've had people refuse to leave the store if we tell them we can't serve them. They go, I'm not leaving. And you go, sir, you have to leave. They're like, I'm not leaving. And then we just go, we're calling the police. And they go, okay, I'm not leaving. And then we have to call the police. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Has police cars ever come up directly to LCBO just to defuse anything?
Yep.
Yeah. Are you ever worried that you might contract anything from these customers? Is that a constant thought in your head, or?
At the moment, no, just because the base is like, we don't have any cases in my hometown right now. At least
congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. Which is a really nice thing to have. But I do have it sometimes in the back of my head, especially when those customers who ignore the rules keep doing it even after being reminded. And I have people complain to me about having to wear face masks and having to follow rules while I'm working. Like, customers will do that, and you're like, I don't know what to say,
Yeah. What do you even do in that instance?
You kind of have to, like, you don't have to agree with them, but you just kind of show them that you're neutral, so then you don't have to start a huge argument in the middle of the store. Like,
unsafe, I'd say. Like, I do love my work, so I feel very comfortable there. But there is that, I guess, the little part that is like, oh, what if someone does have it, or like, it just sort of, there always is like a bit of a chance or a bit of a worry that something might happen. I don't focus on that as much, but I am aware that there is that, and some people do feel concerned about that, and I completely understand, because sometimes I just sort of look at the number of the people in the store. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of people. But like we do have limits as to who can come in, but still there is, I guess, close interaction sometimes, which isn't inevitable, I'd say.
So at my theater job, I was coughed on my last shift, and I ended up getting sick for 2 weeks. Do I know what it was? No. Could it have been COVID? Maybe. But, I never got tested or anything. And I'm happy that I recovered when I did, because for a while there, I was just stuck in bed for a week. Like I couldn't move or anything.
Wow.
So it might have been it, but I don't know, right? So definitely getting sick is easy. It's not nothing, right?
Mm-hmm. So with the pandemic and all of these customers coming in without masks and everything, has your employers or your supervisors or anyone within a higher position than you done anything to ensure your safety?
The only thing that we really installed was the masks, honestly. We don't have those, because I know in some like stores they have like the plexiglass barrier.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, so it's just the face masks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do like ensure like there's like a certain amount of distance between us. Like we don't like go up and walk up to a customer and give them like their food. We still have like a distance we have to maintain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would feel a little better if we maybe did have that like plexiglass, that some people do or have set up.
Mm-hmm.
But I do understand like maybe they just can't afford it, and that's just like, I had to put that into consideration, that maybe they just can't afford it. I'm lucky like my place that I work at survived, because there was a chance that my place wouldn't have survived.
Yeah. So can you talk to me a little bit about why you went looking for a job in the first place? Like, are you living independently right now, or?
So right now I'm still living with my parents because my job is here in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
But I have an apartment for the fall. I'm still paying for it. Like my rent is frozen, so it hasn't gone up yet, but will go up probably in August or September. So I'm still paying for that, and I want to be able to pay for it, like not having to rely fully on my parents, and also just make money so I can survive on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But if I really desperately need it, I know my parents can help me, but I'm hoping to be as financially independent as I can.
That's great.
So my support for my parents is usually like groceries.
Mm-hmm.
They'll help like pay for my groceries and stuff, just because I'm only one person. So my grocery bill is like $20 to $30 at most. So they help me pay for my groceries, but my rent for this room I pay myself. I couldn't like leave this place because eventually schools will open again. Schools will open again, and I will have to attend school, and I didn't want to lose my place, because that means I'd have to look for a new place. I had already done this year, and I didn't want to do it again. So I wanted to keep this room. So by not getting paid, like I was really worried that at some point I wouldn't have been able to keep this place because I couldn't afford it.
So I'm actually really lucky, because I'm still living at home, and I've decided to live at home through college, and I'm happy enough that my parents have let that happen. I don't really have any crazy financial concerns to worry about, because I haven't bought a car yet, so I'm not paying for any insurance or anything like that. And we've been saving for my education since I was born, so I'm covered there too. And I'm lucky enough to have that, because I know a lot of people don't. I just think that this summer I really wanted to save up a lot of money so that I could start putting into my savings, so that I can, like, towards a new house later on, towards a car, towards my PC, towards the things that I'm actually going to need in the long run. And because of the pandemic, there's been a major setback on that. So having a job is important, just because I like constantly having that revenue coming in. And like I said, of course, it's nice to have a break, but reality is going to kick back in sooner or later, and I don't like sitting around just waiting to get lazier and lazier and lazier.
I do live at home with my family. I know some people who don't, and I do know that that will be an issue, like housing. If your people are on res, or if they are renting out a place like that, that's just an added expense along with like technology and books. Um, Being in a film program, I do need to get a Mac. Um, Actually, I'll be needing to get it next month, and that is going to set me back like a good chunk of money. And I could see that being a big issue for some, especially like if they don't have reserves of cash that they saved up over years.
So, I mean, I'm not saying I live in poverty, but I definitely living with my parents. Well, not my parents, my mom. My mom barely makes minimum wage as it is, and she was out of a job. And, you know, thankfully, my dad was also helping support the house. So like we didn't really have that stress necessarily of because my dad is an essential worker. But my mom, she technically was an essential worker, but because of what she does, it didn't keep up. So she was basically out of a job. So she applied to serve, and she was getting that money, but it definitely wouldn't have been enough to cover both rent and food for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely impacted us in that way if we didn't have like my father's support.
Mm-hmm.
Because my parents are personally split up. So we did have the support of my dad kind of helping us out.
So there was talk of the CRB and the CESB. Did you apply to those financial support funds at all?
I was actually going to, but by the time they had it implemented, I was already hired. And because I was already hired, I knew I would be making too much to be able to like actually get those financial aid, which was fine by me because I'm making more than what they are, which is nice. But yeah, I had planned to originally. I know a lot of my friends have done them, but yeah, I haven't because I have a job.
The one that was for like employees, I don't remember which one's which. But the one for employees, I actually didn't work enough hours to be able to apply for that because you had to work a certain amount of hours. And because I just had gotten that job, I'd only worked 5 weeks, and I'd only worked like 2 shifts a week that were like hours long. So I didn't work enough hours to actually be able to qualify for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the student one, I was afraid personally that was going to turn into a loan. Like I'd have to start pay that back. Not all of it, but like some of it, which is going to add on to the OSAP loan I already have to pay back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, if I can just survive a little longer with just this OSAP money, maybe I'll be okay. And then I don't have to add more loans on top of me when I get out of school.
Flexible. So at the end of the tax season or whatever, then they're able to take back a certain amount. And I'm pretty sure it's included with the rest of your earnings of the year. Meaning that most people are probably going to be like, I don't know if it's 100% accurate or not, so don't take my word for it. You'll probably have to look into it, but I think it just adds up to the rest of your income. So if everyone's getting like, right now I've probably made $9,000 through EI or received. I'm not going to say made because I didn't work for it, but I'm going to say that if everyone's earning like 10,000 around there, then that's a big jump from the 12,000 that a minimum wage worker would typically make. And the less money that you make, obviously you get taxed less, right? So if everyone's going to be over that 12,000 or whatever it is, that's the low tax rate, then I want to know how much is going to be taken back. And I haven't looked into it. So part of that is just, it's on me, but at the same time, I feel more comfortable just having a solid track of what cash is actually mine.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the CERB is not sufficient enough to support students or youth who are currently in the workplace?
It does depend on their situation. I know for people who are Canadian residents, a lot of them have moved out and moved back in with their family. So the thought of having to pay rent isn't too much of a worry. Or some people I also know commuted to school, so they have always been living with their parents.
Do you feel like the government can be doing more to support those who are essential workers, especially the youth who have additional expenses come fall?
I definitely think they can do more. Maybe not even just essential workers, but like the fact that schools can't lessen up and give us more back on our tuition because of the financial hit they've had, which I understand. But at the same time, with hands-on programs like you and I are in, we are giving them a lot of money, and not a lot of it has been taken out, and we're losing a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew when I heard that it was going to be all online in the fall, I knew I was going back no matter what. I wasn't going to defer because this could be the future for us. So it's best for me to learn in school while I can, get over the struggles now in school, so that when I get out there, if there are struggles like this, it won't be as bad. So that's why I didn't defer, and that's why my mind changed, and that's why I am going back. And that I'd be okay, but I was just hoping for a little bit more financial help to compensate, because we're not getting our hands-on education like we were promised. So I feel like the government can help out in that way more, not even just giving to essential workers, but giving just back to students, because overall we're not getting what we were promised, which isn't fair.
Like the worry of having to get access to stuff for school, especially for kids, because my program, like I'm not in first year anymore. I'm going to be in second year, so my coming on years, I require a laptop. But for the kids who are in first year, they don't require a laptop. But now that everything's going to be remotely online, they have to have some sort of access to the internet. So with people with lower income, like families, and then having to buy a really expensive laptop, because you don't want to buy a crappy laptop and you have to buy another one for the next year.
Any of these expenses or equipment necessary for your schooling or for your education?
Okay, so I heard a lot of people this year panicking because the school told them that they're going to need like a certain type of Mac or whatever. And that really, like, it got under my skin because, one, not everyone can just go out and afford a Mac. You can't just do that, let alone without a job. You can't just go out and use your EI money for that, especially if you're using it for other things. So for them to just blatantly assume that everyone's going to have access to an Apple computer, otherwise they're totally going to be messed up, is just, I don't know, that got to me. And I was kind of like, okay, me personally, I'm not going to buy one because I have my laptop right here and it works fine for me. And it's worked fine in my first year. So I'm hoping that it's going to work fine now. Obviously, if I absolutely need one, yes, I can go get it. It's going to be a further setback for me for what I actually want and feel that I need.
Your assignments, do you feel that a lot of people who are living in lower income households or do not have enough savings, do you think that these people are at a disadvantage? And do you think
By
that
far,
those
for sure.
Mhm.
If you're on the lower half of financial income, then being told to buy like a $2,000 computer, it's not doable. And that's why a lot of people have even come to film school in the first place, because they finally have access to equipment that they don't have on their own.
Mhm.
So for the school to suddenly being like, oh, we need you guys to buy this certain computer so that you can participate in our classes, I think it's absolutely wrong. And I think that they should easily find a way that someone can participate using anything.
Mhm.
Um, because not everyone can afford that.
Mhm.
Especially they're coming from like what OSAP calls a broken family, because that's what my friend came from, was a broken family. And he's on his own. He has no support except for OSAP, and that's it. So there are going to be kids who are going to be strictly on their own, and they'll have to pay for everything. And I can definitely see that that being a financial burden, especially trying to get proper tech and getting the textbooks, because definitely in college and universities, textbooks are expensive. So, and even then paying off tuition, it's hard because personally, but our tuition did not get knocked down as much as I thought it was going to be. So that's still like, I'm still paying a lot for not the full experience, which is also, I feel like in the future will be a little bit of a financial burden.
Do you think your school community or your neighborhood community or even the government can do anything more to support those who are lower income?
I definitely think schools should lower tuition a bit more, especially my school, because the reason why my tuition is so much is because of the equipment that we have access to. And I don't even know in September we'll have access to any of that equipment. So the fact that we're paying still close to as much as we were paying a year ago, I think is kind of unfair that we're paying almost full tuition and not getting the experience we got in our first year.
Do you think due to the pandemic, a lot of the lives or the educations of students, their paths can be altered dramatically, especially in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to impact a lot of first-year students who are about to enter university and college, because a lot of them are going to defer. They're not going to go because first year of college, it's so much fun and you want to be there. Like, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Like, I had a great time, and I think what's going to happen is those kids are going to defer, but by the time that year, like the year that they defer to, there's going to be a buildup. There's going to be a blockage because all the deferred students will get in, of course, because they deferred, but those who have applied, they might not get in. It's going to create this wall, and then it's going to impact everyone behind it, for sure. And fourth years, too, who just graduated, I don't know how some of them are going to get jobs. You know? You can't go out in the field anymore right now because there's no field to go out to.
Yeah, everything's closed off.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing you have to do is not give up. It's gonna be really hard. It's gonna suck a lot of the time. You're gonna feel lost, you're gonna feel confused. But you have to just remember that we're all around you are going through it, and we can help you. We're all struggling, but you know what, if we do this together and take action and actually follow rules and listen to what people have to say, it's going to be a lot better. Don't make yourself go through this alone.
Regardless of whether you're living in fear of COVID or, whatever's going on, whatever you're thinking, whether you're scared of it, whether you're not, this mask, I think, is very important to be wearing, not for you, but to make sure that everyone else is feeling safe in a time that's already really stressful. Do I like wearing it? No, I really don't. But I can suck it up for a bit until everything cools off a touch.
Yeah.
Customers, I think we did touch a bit on it. How I was sort of saying how some customers sort of will slip by things, or they'll they don't seem to grasp the severity of the situation. And this isn't just for me being youth, just people working in general. It is kind of an extra thing that we have to worry about when customers aren't following rules, or they're being stubborn about it, and they're saying, "Oh, why do I have to wear this? Why do I have to do that?" And it's like, just and I'd say to them honestly, like, the fact that you can go shopping, or the fact that you can go out and do these things these days really is a privilege. Like, it really is. Like, and like it for me, like, if I were to go into a place and they said, "Oh, you need to wear a mask," I wouldn't throw like a fit or anything. I'd just be like, okay, if I don't have a mask on me, I'd say, okay, I'll go get a mask and I'll come back. Like, it's something that I think people just need to grasp the situation a bit more. Most people, I think, have, but there are some who just seem to not understand the situation, I think.
Yeah. But if you're going into an enclosed space like a Walmart or a fast food place, please just wear a mask. It'll help you. It'll help the essential workers. Be patient with some essential workers, because we're under already a lot of stress being at work, especially some of us who are just coming back and have to kind of retrain themselves. We're a little slow. We are trying our best. And just know that you're not alone. There's other people struggling, and this is strictly temporary. Like, you're not going to be this is not the world. This is the world right now, but this isn't, going to last forever. We're going to get through this forever. This is strictly temporary. Even if that temporary is like a year, in a year, this will get better.
I hope that we can realize the level of responsibility the youth are under these days. If anything, we must keep in mind to practice patience and compassion to those keeping the economy afloat. Thank you for listening, and until next time, take care and keep kindness. Minerva Navasca, signing off.